My friend, the days are long, but the years are short. Your role as a father is critical. It is critical. Thank you for being here. I know that the day is so packed, so the fact that you're giving me a few minutes means a lot to me. So thank you for being here and know that you are incredible and that you matter. Three nuggets that hit me from my conversation with my friend Thomas today are: one, understanding teen rebellion; two, how to help your kids hit family expectations; and three, understanding your brand as a father. Welcome to Fatherhood Field Notes podcast, where I interview incredible fathers, gaining wisdom from their stories for you and I to grow in our craft. I'm your guide, Ned Shout, father of five kiddos, currently ages 13 to 19. That's right, five teenagers for 5 months. And husband to my rad wife, Sarah, working on our 21st year of marriage. So, yes, my friend, I'm in the thick of this with you. And I'm working daily to rebel against the low expectations for fathers and create a world where fathers know who they are as they show up for families. You and I have the greatest opportunity to impact our world through the way we embrace our fatherhood role. This episode is brought to you by the Adventure of Fatherhood, helping men discover their powerful fatherhood role and build their fatherhood skills. The role of fathers to serve, guide, steward, protect, and of course, find joy and have fun in the messiness of it all. Today's guest is my friend Thomas Pfanner, incredible father, husband, leader, podcast host, author, and coach for fathers. He has been on the show before and just came out with a new book, and we dive into it. Dads Who Lead. Enjoy. Rock and roll, my friends. I'm stoked to have Thomas, my good friend, on here to talk about his new book, Dads Who Lead. Thomas, what's up, my friend? How are you?
Feeling blessed, man. Super stoked to be here today.
Yeah, dude, I'm so stoked on your book, all that it means, all that it does, and then all that it offers for dads. So definitely want to dig into that with you. But, right out the gate, where's the heart behind this, right? So, you and I were talking about the book and you've had a heart for fatherhood. Where does this desire to help other fathers succeed in their homes come from?
Great question. It comes from the space of struggling myself. So when my son was in eighth grade, he walked out of my life for 6 months.
Mhm.
And during that time, like I was a very active dad. I was coaching his football team. I was talking to his teachers, taking him on campouts, helping him get his first job. And despite all that, there was something about the leadership that I was providing that was pushing him away.
Mhm.
And so after I had the shock of that happening and him walking out, moving in with his mom across state, I said, all right, God, what's the lesson in this? And what
Mhm.
do I need to do to create a shift? And it came down to like, there was no one left to change but me. Like I couldn't
Mhm.
change Charles. I couldn't talk to his teachers to try to, strategize and give a different angle. No, it was just, what do I need to do with my leadership? So I fully anchored into that for a season. And through that, I found how impactful it can be from my own experience when, as opposed to, because you hear about parenting programs, it's focused on the child, and ours kind of flips it, where 80% of it is focused on what we can change as leaders,
Mhm.
and 20% of it is focused on the kid. So when I took that approach with my son specifically, he responded to it really well. And then, like, following that, God said, okay, well, I've put you through this so that one, you could regain your relationship with your son and go after the lost sheep, but also so that you could help other dads who are having that same struggle with their teenagers.
So this question is a pretty wise question. How do you think this question came to you, right? Because if I have an eighth grade kid, I'm like, this kid already doesn't brush his teeth or shower or put deodorant on or whatever, right? I've got all these things about why this kid is, being an idiot, for lack of a better word, right? We just kind of default to like, I'm an adult, I've got crap figured out, although we know we don't. How did you come to the realization that you wanted to make the shift? You said it, I can't change Charles, but I can change
Right.
myself. So where did this come from, this awareness?
I would say, if I'm being totally honest, a lot of it came from coaching, getting coached by some folks that helped me see things in a different
Mhm.
perspective. And it also just came from the space of having no other options. Like I
Yeah, but
didn't
most
have.
families just wrestle with like, my kid sucks, so I'm just going to let him
Yes.
figure this out himself. But you said something unique, right? It's like, okay, you were getting coaching, and I'm assuming you were getting coaching for some business stuff at the time.
It was kind of a combination of, I had actually previously launched a father-son retreat program.
Uh-huh.
And so here I was, I'd launched a father-son retreat program. The first one went great, and then my own teenage son walks out
Doesn't
of my
want to be
life.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the reason I just want to pause here for a second is because I go,
Yeah.
okay, dads, one of the most important things we're going to do is be a father, be a husband. Yet we'll spend money, time, and resources in improving our golf game, making our motorcycle better, quicker, faster, increasing our business value, you name it, whatever. We invest in education in other areas. But like, if I want to be a dad, the question I really want to ask you is, are you reading a Dads Who Lead book? Like at the simplest form,
Mm,
go pay $20 for a book that's going to help you, invest 4 or 5 hours and then take it a step further. Do you have a coach? Do you have a guy like myself or Thomas or Thomas's program that is asking you hard questions that probably
yes.
the buddy at, your golf game isn't really challenging you? He's just like, yeah, your kid sounds like he's being a real dick right now. Right? That's what we tend to default to
Yes.
instead of like, hang on a second. I understand you're frustrated, but what have you changed about you? You're like, oh God, who's asking that? So the fact that you have those people in your life is massive. Obviously, you're a reader and a grower, right? And dudes who are listening to this, clearly, if you're listening to a dad podcast, you care and you're working on it. But
Yes.
okay, so what do I need to change about my leadership? So in that season, what were a couple strikeouts maybe? What were a couple things you tried to shift in yourself and it was like, oh, it wasn't that?
Well, first I tried to reach out to Charles directly and try to, change him and like
Mm,
push to say like, "Hey, can I come and hang out with you? Do you want to, just a direct like, let's talk."
mm,
Those things weren't working.
mm-hmm,
He could kind of see through it. And so his frame, I talk about creating a brand as a dad, and the brand that I had created was a police officer,
mm,
meaning if he gets a call from dad, it means that I need something from him. I have some expectation. Something's not being met. Like I'm kind of keeping tabs on where he's at and his performance.
mm,
And so I tried to do some things to change that brand, but there was a period where, one of the things that I tried to answer your question that didn't work was just complete radio silence.
mm,
Complete radio silence, I think sometimes is something that it feels like the right thing to do because you're just giving them space,
mm-hmm,
but we have to find ways to be engaged.
mm-hmm.
And it's not necessarily something every day, but something consistently to touch base.
So just kind of let him know I'm here, I love you, I care, but I'm also trying to not crowd you a bit.
Exactly.
Okay. So talking about brand, dad brand, police
Yes.
officer probably resonated with some folks. What's a couple that you see that are not helpful?
There's also the pushover dad
Mm,
that's just like, I'm here to be just a friend. I'm going to kind of like go with what your idea is. I'm going to be like, I like to say great listener. Like they are typically good listeners. The dads are the pushover, but they also have to be able to still keep their boundaries. So there's that balance where you want to be able to listen and provide what the kids need, but also firm in what you believe for yourself. So there's a pushover that can just kind of be like, okay, yeah, like I hear what you need. I'll be able to provide that, or I can do that for you, which sometimes that's the case. And sometimes if it's not backed up with a bigger strategy for their development, it can be not as great. So those are kind of the two that can be most commonly ineffective is somebody that's just like just always going with the flow. I'm just here to do what you're saying me to do, which is a lot of what we get trained to do as men in society. Just do what you're told and things work out. And then the police officer is basically if you're in a leadership position, which I'd been for much of my career, it
mm,
was like, well, when I'm in leadership, I tell people to do the things that I need them to do, and they do them, and then it works out for the team.
mm-hmm,
So, of course, my son, if I tell him what to do and he does it, it's going to work out for him
right.
because that's logical.
Mm,
But that's not what they want. We're our own ship. And if you're leading a team, like when I was with the Ducks football team, and we all had a role, and my role was to have, as a strength intern, was to help prepare the kids for Saturday.
mm-hmm,
And everybody in the program, regardless of what their role was, whether it was an athlete or an assistant or somebody in the medical staff, was all moving them towards preparing them to perform on Saturday. Everybody's moving in the same direction. With our kids, we have our own ship that we're driving in a certain direction, and then we're instead of telling them to go in the same direction as us, we're actually teaching them how to be the own captain of their ship, how to
Hmm.
steer their ship in the direction that they want. And so that was one of the big shifts that I wanted to create as I was rebranding with Charles, was like, how can I create an environment where he knows, like, I'm here to help you get to the target that you want. I'm not here to get you to the target that maybe he perceives of what I want.
Yeah, interesting question, right? So I think that it's like we want to have vision for our kids, but we also, I think it maybe isn't that it's, so I'm going to get your feedback on this. Okay. So, like right now, my
Yes.
son's 16. I got 5 kids, my 4 girls, a boy. I've got, if I were to say what's my vision for my girls, I'm just making this up at the moment. But my vision
Sure.
for my girls really would be that they find an incredible husband who loves and serves them and creates a safe environment for them to thrive as mothers, whether they want to be in the workforce or they don't, but that it's not on their shoulders to make sure that the electricity's on. Okay. And that they live on the same street as me. That's my vision for them. That last piece we'll see. But I guess then the truth is that the vision for my son is really the same, right? It's not that dad played, I didn't play college baseball, but dad played college baseball, so you're going to, or dad's a pastor, so you're going to. I think that sometimes I think that is lost a little bit, this idea of like passing down my craft to my kid. But
Yes.
do we have vision for our sons? Because I think we can get a little too loosey goosey of like, whatever you want, like whatever you want.
Yeah.
But when he's steering his ship, I do think he's looking to me. Probably ultimately, it's where am I steering my ship, right? Like I could tell him all day, be a good husband. And if I'm a jerk off, then he's not going to get a good example of that. So do you have vision? Do you have vision, men who are listening? Do you have vision for your sons? And is it kind of the flip of what I said for the girls? Is it that he can provide, that he has a strength of character and integrity and can lead a home well? Okay, give me your feedback on those things of like having vision for your
Yeah.
kids.
Well, I think there's the grand vision, right?
Yeah,
And a lot of times, even if we're good, like, okay, yeah, we're going to let him, like, you pick where you want to go to college, you pick
right.
what sports you're going to do. But there's also the day to day, like, hey, you have a C in this class or
Hmm.
you have a D in this class. Like, we need to get this homework done. You need to get this homework done before whatever.
Right.
You're going to have so much time on your phone. So, those like day to day things were what was creating friction day to day
Hmm.
with my son and I. And so, those were some of what I had to let go of to see,
Hmm.
like, where is he going to find it? Like, he may have to fail a class and have to retake it before like that lesson sinks in. But if I, because I was constantly on him about doing assignments, the friction between us was like, dad just wants me to do things that everybody else like is doesn't matter to me because school's not important. What's important to me is like hanging out with friends. So there's that balance of
Yeah. Yeah.
like you said, vision. And so it takes time. And in the book, we talk about building up to being able to have expectation. There are
Mm.
different attributes of leadership. If we just focus on the expectation piece of like the vision, what we want for our kids and where they're direct, like we won't get the rest. We
Mm.
won't get the moments. We won't get the memories. We won't get the campouts. It's a balance of the two. And it's investing more in that space of like, all right, let's just go and have lunch and talk about UFC. Let's
Mm.
go shoot our bows. Let's go, do things so that your brand is blended and not just like, I'm only here to guide you to move to the next space, but having a like kind of diversity in how they see their relationship with their father.
Yeah, that's really good. So you said the balance between the two. So you kind of talked about this building up to expectations.
Yes.
So what are the other components of building up to the expectations? I mean, you kind of just talked about relationship. Is that
Yes.
basically it, or is there some other components to it?
Yeah, there are 4 layers that come before.
Okay.
And so the base, I'll kind of go through the whole thing and then we
Yeah.
can break down different layers. Faith is the foundational layer, and the acronym is FORGE if it helps you memorize.
Okay.
Faith, ownership, respect, groundbreaking adventure, and expectation. So faith, there's 3 levels. And this is actually comes before ownership. Like Jocko says, ownership's number 1. I have faith as number 1.
Mhm.
And I do that because we have faith that God has created us and are specifically chosen us to father this young man or woman, whatever their journey is at. He's specifically given us this task. So I know that this role is designed for me.
Mm-hmm.
There's no black or white in that. Like if you pick a job that could be for you or could not be for you, but our kids were created for us to parent. So we have faith in that you're not your kid's dad on accident.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, we have faith in ourselves, our own abilities, our own leadership as men. If you don't have faith in yourself, it doesn't matter if you take ownership, because there's going to be a level of doubt in your own ability.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, faith in our kids that they have what it takes to be successful. If we don't have faith in our team, that's going to bleed over. So faith is tremendously powerful. And then we go to ownership, which I'm sure if you're listening to this podcast, you've probably read or you've heard of Jocko Willink's Extreme Ownership and the power of we like focus on ourselves rather than putting the focus on others. And then level 3 is respect. And that's just how different kids, and this is like, I believe the third section in the book, talks about how different kids receive respect in different ways and how to create a mutual bond and respect. So when you sit down for coffee with your kids, that there's a powerful connection.
Mm-hmm.
They respect who you are, you respect from there, and we can open the door to deeper conversations. And all those first 3 levels lead up to groundbreaking adventure. And that's going on the fishing trip, going surfing, spending more extended time where you're doing some adventure with them side by side that would also have other life lessons that are tied in. And having that time, and like back in the day, there used to be T-Mobile had like the Fab Five, like your
Oh
5
yeah,
people that you
that's
spend
funny.
most time with. You get to like have free calls with those folks. So if you're in your kid's Fab Five,
Mm-hmm.
your impact and influence of your personality is going to be more profound. And so that's like ultimately, as a dad, as I was going through this and wanting to be at peace with who I am as a father, if everything falls out and Charles drops out of high school and goes to jail and like the worst of the worst case scenario, I can look back and say like, all right, I've done all these reps. I've focused on the process
Mm-hmm.
of being the best father that I can be for him. And so that's like, there's no guarantees I talk about in the book, but like focusing on these different attributes is how I've been led by God to kind of put this together, and
Mm-hmm.
through other coaches as well. It gives me like the best chance of success.
Yeah. Okay, so faith, ownership, respect, groundbreaking adventure, and then
Yes.
excellence or
Expectation.
expectation. Okay,
Yeah.
expectation.
I'm starting to change my language. In the book, it's expectation, but I'm starting to change my language to that. I might shift it over to excellence just because it's a little bit more like, it's less controlling. It's more about performance.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think it's helpful for expectation because I think that's ultimately, what you're kind of talking about in the book is like you have a rebellious kid, how to get to the expectations that you're expecting. Like excellence kind of comes
Yeah.
after that because you're talking about an eighth grader, for example. If my sixth, seventh, eighth, or high schoolers rebelling and I'm wanting to establish relationship, I'm really wanting. It's not establish relationship only. I'm wanting them to respect my home and my rules, right? And I like
Yeah.
that you're starting with the parent to go, okay, do your rules in your home, is your expectations, like, are they appropriate? Are they worth having in the way that you have them? So, I mean, at least that's what I'm hearing a bit. So I
Yes.
think expectations is good. I think that then would turn into excellence, right? I'm doing
Yes.
this not because I have to, I'm doing this because it's like character shaping. So talk to me a little bit about the expectations. So like maybe in your own story with your son, once you kind of went down this path of redeveloping yourself, your leadership, how did you
Yes.
see the response from him?
Well, the first thing I would say is, if as a dad, you do a really good job on the first 4 levels,
Mm-hmm.
the top level should be fairly easy. And I say that because kids innately know what we're expecting as dads.
Yeah, that's
To
funny. You don't have to even
Yeah.
tell them. Like they know what you want or what your expectations in your house are.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like obviously there's some things that you have to, like, the less direct with Charles, especially because Charles' personality is very confrontational. He really enjoys conflict. He'll tell you like he enjoys conflict. That's why he's wanting to get into sales, because like that's an environment that he enjoys like the back and forth
Yeah.
and the banter and like, oh, this person is like pushing back and having objections. Well, it's natural for him to just get into that. And then if he ends up winning and getting the sale, it's like it's a huge high for him.
Nice.
And so having that type of personality specifically, I know like the less direct that I am, the better it is in the end because then he feels like he's in control.
Mm.
But I do believe one, kids will kind of know what we want, but there's also a piece that's really important that I learned from Chip Kelly. I went to a conference years ago. I think I was like 19. So it's coming up like almost 18, 20 years ago. He said, as a coach, if you accept it, expect it. So if it's important for you for your kids to be home by a certain time and they get home 30 minutes late and you don't say anything, well, expect that to happen again.
Hmm.
And it doesn't have to be like, I'm going to drop the hammer, but like if you have an expectation that you put down, you've got to have something specific where like you have an intervention
Hmm.
that's saying like, hey, I'm not going to accept this performance or behavior or however you want to say it. But like the more that we invest in those first four layers, the easier that conversation is going to go.
So good. If a dad's listening to this right now and he's just really feeling tension between him and his kid, middle school, high school, and he's kind of at this borderline of he's either the hammer or he's just being passive, what would you say
Yes.
would be the first couple of action steps that they could take with their kid, whether their kid lives in their home or maybe is trying to spend more time at the, mom's house if they're divorced? Like, what were a couple action items you would have the father lean into?
I would start with if he feels like he's being the hammer, I think the
Mm,
biggest skill to develop would be the skill of listening to be able to hear his side. Because when I was a middle school teacher in PE, they'll always say, like, oh, when I hear kids complaining about things, is like, so and so doesn't understand.
mm,
My friend doesn't understand. My dad doesn't understand. Whoever doesn't understand. That's the problem.
mm,
They understood, be better. So disarming that and being able to really listen well to what our young heroes are going through is a really powerful tool because then it also puts us in position where you say, oh, I see. You're like, it's super important for you to perform well at wrestling. And so you're going to go to bed early and skip preparing for your chemistry test. Even if you get a D on your chemistry test, that doesn't matter to you because you want to perform well at wrestling. Doesn't mean you have to agree with it, but you at least know, like, okay, that's
mm,
your mind.
mhm,
Okay, now, like, I'm just making this up as an example. My expectation is like that you're performing in your scholastics as well. So maybe the conversation from there, instead of just like jumping down their ass
mhm.
about their like going to bed or like they're not spending time studying, being creative, like how can we accomplish both of these things?
Mhm.
Because I see
Mm,
that this is important. So having that space of understanding, it just it takes down some of that defensive barrier
mm,
that's very natural for the teenager to create. And when kids are young, they're so used to just going with the flow. Like, hey,
mm.
if you have like a not like 8, 9 year old, they're just like, hey, we're going to the store. We're going to like whatever. They're just on the ship. And now you've got somebody that's driving their own ship and it's
Yep.
a different story.
I love that question though. How can we accomplish both these things? Right? Instead of just saying, hey, this is important to me, fine, whatever, wrestling, but this is what you're going to do. It's like start to work with them. How can we accomplish both these things? How can I support you in it? And shifting away from the conflict. And again, it comes back to you understanding and knowing your kid. Any other ideas, thoughts? So, because you had said, okay, if you're the hammer, then do this. So, if a dad's just like, screw it, like I'm just kind of letting go, what would you tell him?
I'll say this specifically if you have a teenage son, we're dealing with a lot more competition than we used to. And what I mean by that is social media, other influencers, the performance of the people that our kids are listening to and getting advice from is often really high. And so even my son, I'd be like, why should I learn from my teachers? They haven't run a business. They haven't done the things that
Mm,
I want to do. Like he wants to learn from, and that's really like kind of the world we're in, right? Like if you want to learn from somebody who's doing things at a really high level, you can go on YouTube or you can go and do that, right?
right.
And so if you're that dad that's kind of getting pushed over, I would encourage them to focus on themselves and having habits that their kids are really going to respect. They see like not a lot of other people doing.
What
That's
would
kind
some
of
of those habits be?
so it could be waking up early, going in the garage and getting a workout, going to like training, like doing things to take care of like your own goal. Like, hey, if you're a hunter, you go out, you hunt, you perform. It can be things that you enjoy yourself, but things that say like, hey, my dad is separating himself from the norm. Like, make sure you're not the dad that's just waking up, driving to work, driving home, plopping on the couch, cracking a beer, watching the game, telling their kids what to do, getting told by his wife what to do, like this cycle, right? Like, if that's who you've created yourself to be, and your son's just kind of running over you or your daughter's running over you, they're doing that because they probably don't respect the man that you've become,
Mm,
which is tough to swallow. And that's kind of what I talk about in the first couple sections of the book. Is like we've got to, especially with these young heroes that are coming up, like we've got to be somebody
mm.
who they truly look up to, not just somebody that provides for them,
Yeah.
which it used to be in a smaller tribe network. There wouldn't be a lot of those people, but the competition's raising. But like we can choose to just say, like, oh, man, I can't keep up, or you can just step in. And like that combined with being a great listener will put you in a pretty great position as far as being able to impact your kids.
Mm. Okay, so take care of you and then listen. And I
Yes.
think as you're listening to this, dudes, if you find that you feel like home life is just out of control, which there are times where I have felt that way, do feel that way. If you feel like that, are you finding yourself controlling your work environment, or are you trying to just control things at the house? Like you walk in and it's like, I need this clean, you do this, you do that, you become the cop, essentially what Thomas had talked about. And it's funny because the couple things I've been reading with my kids a lot the last couple of years is First Corinthians 13 about love, and then Galatians about fruits of the Spirit. And like one of the fruits of the Spirit is self control. And so if you
Mm-hmm.
find yourself constantly trying to control everything around you, how are you doing it controlling yourself? Because that's really like the only fruit of the Spirit that talks about any kind of controlling anything really is controlling yourself, not necessarily those around you. So have you leaned into controlling your food, your sleep, your training, your workaholism, whatever it might be? Because I think that those are things that, kids and a wife look at as respectable, kind of just
Yeah.
exactly what you're talking about, Thomas. The respect, you talked about having a cup of coffee together, and then this, groundbreaking adventure. I felt like, so I took my son out of school, he's a junior, and we've been doing homeschool with him. So a lot of my stuff is like, you didn't update this, you didn't finish that, you didn't do this. It's like I'm on him a lot more right now. And him and I had a business trip out to Boston, and so I took him, and there was a lot of just go out to dinner, grab food, go to a Red Sox game, go do this, that, and the other. And it became where it finally, like after a couple of days, it was like very playful and it was just
Yeah.
fun. And so I felt like a bit of his feeling of me just being a parent, not also at moments where I could be I could be his friend, like we can be friends sometimes. That opportunity came out more. And so I'd say for dads, if you found that it's been weeks, days, months where you have just been, it's like rhythm, 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 rhythm on all the stuff. Can you just peel away for a couple days? And I'll tell you one last thing. Like my daughter, she's a senior, she's graduating soon. And so her and it was a pain in my ass to get it all figured out. But her and I left home. We flew to Washington and went for 3 nights in Olympic National Park. Just rented a car,
Wow.
slept in a tent, and it was like, man, there's so much happening. But those 3 days felt like just carved out perfectly for us, and so it just deepened this connection during this busy season of like senior year and picking a college. But carving out that time for the groundbreaking adventure, like dads, let's do this. This is such an opportunity we have, and it's like the window's going to close to some
Yeah.
level, right? What are some thoughts around the ground? I know you do a father son event, so maybe speak to that in a minute, but
Yes.
just you and your son or you and your kiddos, what are some groundbreaking adventures you've done?
Oh, wow. Like, I love adventures that stretch us as men and women. So,
Mm,
for example, my daughter, she loves rock climbing. And that's something that if we're going out, she can challenge herself to her level. She's 6. Okay. So, to kind of give you perspective,
yeah.
she can challenge herself to her level and have a great time.
Hmm.
She can go up. I love this. She'll go up to like the second to last hole of a route and be like, I'm ready to come down. Then to come down and be super stoked. Which, like, for guys, like, if you got that far and you didn't make it, it would feel like a failure. But
Right.
for her, she's
Right.
like, cool. I just because I like to climb. And then obviously, you're dealing with fear and you're dealing with other emotions that drop into it. So I love to do things when we're creating,
Mm,
whether like get things out of our hands. Are you are you doing the thing or are you watching the thing?
hmm.
Watching the thing is okay, but if you're truly doing something together, you could be making cookies. You could be like my son and I love to do jujitsu and Muay Thai. The rule, like the I don't know, like a rule, but like the I guess the hack we'll call it that I love is if they're using their hands to do an activity, that means their phone's not in it.
Hmm.
So if we can go and for a bike ride, we do something where there's some skill development, fishing. I'm not great fishing or hunting, but like those would be activities that would be engaging and learning.
Yeah.
And those like mini adventures can be really powerful. Like I'm always big. It's just like the way that we're structured in our home. Can I break away and do like a field trip is what we
Mm,
call it for my youngers is like a field trip. Or with Charles, a lot of times it's like he's more focused really into martial arts. So that's a lot of times or eating. He likes martial arts and eating because he's an 18-year-old.
mm,
So those are often our two. Eating, I don't mind it. Like I would prefer to go and train with him first and then eat if I had the opportunity to do that. But if you can find something where their hands are occupied and you're doing it together, that is the ultimate engagement because you got like all the senses involved. And I'm yeah, there's some research behind like there is a bonding that happens when we do the same neural patterns,
mm,
whether it's throwing a softball or climbing or fishing. Like when you have dancing, like the same motor patterns as somebody else, it creates a deeper bond.
I love that. Yeah. I mean, creating that space to do things with your kids outside, some things that are rhythm, some things that are field trip, not an every week kind of thing. One thing I want to share that comes to mind is it doesn't always have to be like, I'll give you an example of what I mean. My son had ACL surgery. He's the one who mows our lawn. We have a riding lawnmower. We live on an acre, whatever. My 13-year-old daughter, I was out there mowing it, and I'm like, why the heck can't I just have her do this? And, I go in the house, I'm like, yo, I need you for 20 minutes. And I'm like, you're going to do this. And she's like, scared. No, I can't. Like, what do you mean? And so, anyways, I got her on it. I'm walking the grass with her, showing her how to do it. And funny, because it's like not typical that the girl's going to go do this, right? My neighbor, he's 83. He was standing on his porch and he like gives me a big old thumbs up, like, that's awesome. Your daughter's doing this. The point is, now I think she's mowed it 4 or 5 times. I showed her all how to do it and I was leaving town for 10 days for work. And my wife called me and she's like, hey, Stella wants to go mow the lawn. I'm like, yep, showed her how to do it. She's good to go. Go ahead, let her do it. My point in this is we're talking about respect and adventure. Adventure could be slowing down on mowing the lawn or slowing down on fixing the faucet and bringing your kid along with you, even your 12-year-old daughter, to do this. And that can be adventure as well. And I want, because dads, as we know, like there's crap to do all the time around the house. And we can create adventure in those moments with our kids as well.
Yeah. And like to give you all a bonus, actually, I don't talk about this in the book, but your audience will appreciate this. I think with some of my clients, I talk about lakes and rivers, and often we get into our rhythm of our life, and it's like we're always in a river. We're moving
Mm,
from one thing to the next, and it's got to go. It's got to go fast. And heck, if you're getting on an airplane, everybody's like jamming to get from the terminal into the plane. And then once you in the plane, everybody's jamming to get from in the plane to off. And it's like everybody's always trying to get to the next thing. And what I notice is that when we're always in that rush, it makes it really hard to like teach her. Like in your example, you're teaching your daughter how to mow the lawn. If you're just like, I just want to do this as fast as I can, you
Hmm.
wouldn't be able to pass on that skill. But when we're in a lake and we're like, hey, we don't have to make super fast, intense decisions. It doesn't have to happen right now. We can take our time and develop. That's when the skill development happens too.
Hmm.
Like we have such a more of an opportunity to pass on skills to our young heroes when you're able to like slow down and be in a lake and be patient. Like this is how you're gonna start it up. This is how you're gonna clean out the, whatever it might
Right.
be. That patience. And like when we talk about Jesus, one of my good friends, Pastor T, he talks about, Jesus would put his life down for us, which like the immediate thing is like putting your life, like giving your life, stepping in front of the bullet. But the other part is like putting our life down so
Mm.
that we can be present with the person that we're with. And
That's
that's
really
something
good.
Jesus was really, really good at.
Yeah.
And doing that with our kids, like they see that. They
Hmm.
see that when we like slow down and be like, I'm just going to be here with you right now for 10 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, whatever it is.
I never had thought about the concept of, like Christ dying. We're always like, jump on the grenade for your family and for everybody, which is like work your ass off and work hard and this, that, and the other. But it's also setting aside what may seem to be really important in the moment to do the thing that's actually the presence, the presence. Lakes and rivers. I love it. Thomas, I'm going to ask you a final question in a minute here, but any last thoughts on the book? You can get it on Amazon. And dudes, one, buy two copies, right? So here's the thing. We have a dad who spent hours and hours and hours and hours, more hours than you can realize writing a book, right? For your sake. Grab two copies, one for you, one for a homie. And then as soon as that Amazon package shows up, open it up, and then go write a review on Amazon, right? Those are the
Amazing.
things that you can do, right? And it's maybe a little extra, but do that to honor fatherhood, to honor a dad who's out there creating events and wrestling with how to help you, taking time right now, no cost, no, not making money, to sit here and talk about fatherhood. He wants to invest in you. So the way that you could honor him is by buying a couple books, giving one away, maybe sharing this episode, shoot a friend a text, be like, hey, you've got a middle schooler, I thought you'd enjoy this conversation. And then also please write a review on Amazon, because it's really hard to get those, and it matters. It's funny, we'll go write a bunch of reviews for a bunch of crap that's not really going to matter in a couple of years, but this will. So Thomas, any
Yes.
last thoughts on the book? Right, you can get it on Amazon. You can go to dadswholead.com. You've got a leadership quiz on there. If dads want to get more
Yes.
information from you, learn about the events and things you do, they can do that. Before you share the father son event, because I think that's massive, any last thoughts on the book that you'd encourage guys to grab a copy?
I would just say if you're in the space of like feeling confused about teenage rebellion and why it's happening, you're like, all right,
Hmm.
is there a way to reverse this cycle? That's who I wrote this book
Hmm.
for. You can expect to really dive into understanding why something, because I think as men, we really want to know why things are happening. And
And
if we know why, we can start to break down how to solve it.
okay, yes. And if you have a fourth grade princess or prince who hasn't done anything and they're never going to do anything, just take a little tip from us. Get the book, because something's going to happen.
Yes.
Seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, 11th, something's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I don't want you to be surprised. We shouldn't be surprised when our little angel makes a mistake. It's part of the process. And we want you to be ready when it happens, to be able to respond and not react, so that you don't cause more damage in the situation, because you have to be that trusted advisor. So grab a copy, even if your kid is in those like innocent young ages, and kind of
Yeah.
get ahead of the game here. The biggest advice I heard on a podcast one time, this guy said, this is like a decade ago. He said something to the extent of, when we have kids who are 5, 8 years old, we like wish they would stop talking. We're just like, oh my gosh, stop asking me questions. And then when they're 8th, 9th, 10th, we just wish they'd come out of the room and talk to us. We wish they'd ask us a question. So the advice was, there will come a point where if you tell them, stop asking me so many questions, stop this, stop talking, they're gonna stop. So if you could cultivate this listening now, even if it's about whatever, whatever their favorite kids movie right now. Sit and listen, give them the time, because now it's like when my daughters want, I want them talking to me, some 16-year-old boy who's like happy to give him his ears to talk to. You know, I want them to think my dad will listen to everything I say. So cultivate that when your kids are young.
Yes. Amazing. I love that. Absolutely.
So, dude, talk to me about the father son event you do before we end here.
Yeah. This is really the pinnacle of the programs that we run. And we want to provide something where kids and their dads as well can see what it looks like, feels like, tastes like to become the main character in their own story.
Mhm.
And that's really the theme of the whole weekend. We have a great time. We do whitewater rafting, paintball, different adventures. I'm an old PE teacher, so
You
we
got,
like to flip it.
yeah.
And 60 to 80% of the time, we're dropping into adventure, and then like 20 to 40% of the time, we're talking about how it relates to our growth as men and how we develop and the process and the depth. We only bring 6 families per event, so everybody is getting the attention and the coaching and the depth. Nobody's, this sounds intense, but nobody's safe. Nobody's going to like duck from the hard
Mm,
questions. We like pull everybody through. And as men, we want to have that validation of doing hard things
mhm,
and performing, and we need that space as a rite of passage. And so because it's challenging physically, mentally, intellectually, at the end of the event we have the rite of passage that's really powerful and meaningful, as where if you just like rolled it out and hey, everybody gets it, gets a rite of passage because you're 15 years old or you're whatever age, it's not the same.
mm,
So going through something heavy together side by side with your son, it creates a powerful shift in the dynamic between dads and sons, that the dads, we're not just there to provide, but we're also there to now prepare them so that they can provide for themselves.
love it. Where can dads learn more?
If you go to dadswholead.com
Okay.
and you go to the tab there, the play to win experience. That's our landing page where you
Okay.
get testimonials and learn more about the program.
And this is growing. You've got 3 events this year. So
Yes.
fantastic. And then what's the age group that you say is good for this?
Yes, we've actually increased the age because the conversations that we have, I want the kids to have some experience behind it. It's not that the younger kids don't get a powerful experience from it as well, but there's ability to absorb and understand some of the content. So we go 14 to 21 is the age
Oh,
range that
dang.
we get. So going into high school, like
Okay.
8th grade into high school is the typically the youngest that we take on. If you have a kid, you feel like he's really mature and he's like going into 8th grade, it might be a fit. But we want to really help kids that are getting ready to like make a big shift up in their journey as men.
Love it. Man, Thomas,
Yes.
thank you so much, dude. I love having you on the show. Love talking fatherhood with you. Excited for Dads Who Lead and for all that you're doing. Much love, dude, to you and your family, and just continue to be a blessing out in the world. And if there's anything we can do to support you, let us know. Men, go buy that book right now. 2 copies, Amazon. Dads Who Lead.
Let's go. Thank you, friend.
All right, until next time. Peace. What an incredible conversation. Love the book. I love what it is here for. I love the simplicity of breaking down how we could step in. And really, I mean, the shift of my kid's a knucklehead and I need them to change to how can I change to show up with and for my kids while still holding true to who I am and to the vision that I know that I have for my son, for my daughter, for my family. My friends, if these conversations are helpful, first and foremost, please write a review if you haven't already. And 2, share it with somebody. Shoot a text with the link. Hey, you got a teenager. I think this would be valuable for you. It helps spread the word that fatherhood matters. Thank you to all you dads out there listening to Fatherhood Field Notes podcast. What you do matters. Don't be like everybody else. Be yourself. That's who your kids, your spouse, and your community needs. This is your guide, Net Shout. Together, let's rebel against the view that fatherhood has little impact, and let's create lives engaged in mastering the craft of fatherhood. I look forward to hanging out with you next time.